Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the Dumpster Talk. Today we have Derek Lehman with Smash My Trash.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So, if you just want to give like a little background of like what you guys are all about, how you got into this industry, and what brought you to Smash My Trash.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, first of all. So Smash My Trash. Spent about 25 years in the corporate world, worked for Hershey, worked for a small company called DAS, middle of a cornfield. And during the pandemic, I saw a cool opportunity with this franchise called Smash My Trash. It was new, and it was neat because it was a disruptor to the waste industry. The other thing that was really cool about it was environmentally friendly. So it's around sustainability and reducing CO2 emissions. And I thought it was a neat opportunity to jump on something different, take my background and my skills, and do something on my own.
That's awesome. I know we were talking a lot about like how you just got into the business not too long ago. What has been like the importance of going out? We've seen you at a lot of like networking events. What's like the importance of that to you in building those long connections, long lasting?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a learning period or a process. So we'll be up and running here 2 months or 2 years within. Here, can we? Let's start at the end. So we've been up and running about 2 years here in March. And, you know, I think networking is probably one of the most important parts. And when I say networking, I'm not talking about serial networking where you got to go out and get as many business cards as you possibly can. I think it's around authenticity.
Yep.
I think it's around going out and actually having a conversation. What I'm finding is a lot of the networking that I really enjoy the most and is most beneficial for me as well as the people I'm networking with is where I'm trying to learn, using the curiosity of how does this work? Why is something done this way? You guys had an open house 6 months ago or whatever, and I came down and just wanted to learn more about your process, which really kind of developed into like your podcast and watching some of that stuff and conversation about the energy and enthusiasm you guys have. And I, as a result, really have started to make some neat relationships with the whole Sahd team. So I think it's really that networking is really about learning from each other. Could be industry stuff, could be personal stuff, could be who do you know? Because you're on job sites and everybody's always like, hey, do you know somebody who? And it's nice to, maybe it's not an opportunity for you, but maybe it's an opportunity for somebody you met along the way. And I don't think there's a better compliment than to give a referral to somebody that's inside your network or even on the fringe of your network.
Yeah.
You're able to like kind of swing in and out of like the recycling industry. You're in all aspects of that. So like and like you said, you were at our tour here. Have you worked with a lot of like metal recycling before, or are we kind of the first ones you connected with?
I've connected with some others, but I would say you guys think different, you know, about how you do your business. So I think that you guys have been really receptive and really open, and I think that's a part of the networking process is really to be open and vulnerable, so to speak, in how you're talking and thinking about things. Because I'm a different beast from a standpoint of smashing trash. And people, first thing we always hear from people is didn't know this existed. Second thing is like, how does this work? So I think just to have those conversations, but you guys are really the first ones that we've really started chatting with in a pretty consistent basis, and you know, learning from each other.
And then like you just said, like about how does this work? I just looked at your shirt. What's your fleet look like? How does it work? Is it off the back of a truck? Like what's the details?
Yep, so we are, as of the fall of 2022, we've grown our fleet 100%. We went from 1 truck to 2 trucks. So we are growing. We service Lebanon, Dauphin, and Northwest Lancaster County. And what we basically do is we go to anybody who has an open top dumpster, and we literally do mobile compaction on site. So we have a 3-ton roller, it goes in the dumpster, it's 0 damage to the can. We actually don't touch the dumpsters, and we eliminate air. So if they're doing 100 hauls a year, we knock it down to 30 or 40. Depends on the material, depends on a lot of different things, but we do pallets and 55-gallon metal drums and appliances and everything in between.
It's super nice with like the cost of fuel and everything right now.
Yep, and it eliminates, and like I said at the beginning, it gets rid of trips to and from the landfill. So by doing that, we eliminate a lot of CO2 emissions. Mm-hmm. So it's really about the sustainability. And as a dad with kids, anything we can do to help fight global warming. And a lot of companies have 2030 initiatives or green initiatives or whatever the initiative is. Yeah, they got to save money, which we help them with that. But the cherry on top of the sundae is the fact that we're also reducing those CO2 emissions and helping fight global warming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
cool.
cool.
Definitely. Dan talks like a lot with us about like how, like if your company is in any way helping like environmentally and working in a sustainable way, like it's only going to help you. So it's really good.
So what's like the target customer for Smash My Trash look like? Like when you go out, who are you kind of looking for to provide service for?
So the easy ones are anybody who currently has an open top dumpster, right? Anybody who's manufacturing, logistics, construction, anybody who's throwing stuff into an open top, 20 yard, 30 yard, 40 yard, whatever it may be. But there's also, we were talking a little bit before this, there's also folks that don't even know that they could use us. We have a couple folks where they work with like large wood spools, or they have large crates on their property, and they accumulate over time. So it causes safety concerns, because now all of a sudden you have a 30-foot stack of stuff. It causes a lot of issues just in productivity of moving stuff around the yard. So we've actually done a lot of projects over the holidays where we work with folks cleaning up their yards, bringing dumpsters on site, doing project smashes where we get rid of that unsightly inventory. So it really depends. We've also worked with folks where we look at their waste, their frequency, the types of cans they have on site, and we've actually worked with people to kind of migrate from maybe some smaller flip tops into larger ones, to help on their overall spend and frequency of hauls, and just basically help them analyze their process and how do we make their process better. So.
All right, so we can tell that you have like a lot of passion in what you do. Do you have a lot of do you have any goals for like a 1 year goal, maybe 3 to 5 year goals for your business?
Absolutely. So we have dollar goals that we're trying to hit. We also have profitability goals, right, that we're trying to hit. I'm not going to share those, but those are goals that we have within the team. But the other really big goal that I have is development of the team, right? So I got really lucky. I got 2 great people that we brought on board as drivers this year. And one has experience in trucks and forklifts and things like that. One has no experience, but she's got the right drive, the right determination, the right willingness to learn, and she's done an amazing job. And she came from home health aides world.
Wow.
So as I'm bringing these folks on board, it's not just about what are we going to do to achieve success financially. It's what are we going to do to achieve success from a personal perspective with the team, because I believe the more the team, the more that you invest in that team, that's going to have ripple effects as we go out to our customers, right, and our partners and everybody we work with, because you're going to see that same enthusiasm and passion across our organization. So that's a big goal for me is
Cool.
team development.
How important is it for you to get like people in who are just like so willing to learn, like even if they
It's critical.
I've never worked in this industry, but like I would like to think that I like to learn different stuff here. Like how important is that for you?
It's critical because we are in essence a trucking company, logistics company of sorts, because we drive trucks. There is no CDL required, which is a unique thing. We're under 26,000 pounds. So I drive the truck as the owner and salesman. I also drive the truck. It's actually a lot of fun to do.
It's actually pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool. Smashing's even better, but driving's pretty cool too. And really at the end of the day, we were looking for initially truck drivers. And coming from my last gig with DAS, I understand a lot about truck drivers, right? There's only 5% of truck drivers are females. And truck drivers tend to jump jobs a lot. And it's hard to really find a good quality truck driver. So we actually ended up kind of taking a different approach with this go around. And we have somebody who has trucking experience that we hired. I have a gentleman who's a retired firefighter who works for me part-time, and he's been a great fit. So he's not inside the traditional trucking world. And then I have this other gal who's never driven a truck before in her life, and we taught her everything from day one, and she's been doing a great job. So I think it's really thinking different about not just the business, but just even the people that are going to come into the business, and how do you find the right people to come on board and then achieve the goals together.
That's awesome. I like the theme of like thinking different as well. We do that as well here because a lot of stuff in the scrap industry is changing, so we have to change with it or we'll be lost. So So that's definitely cool.
We'll get left behind.
What would you say that like what do you guys do at Smash My Trash that really like sets you guys apart from your competitors?
I think it's customer service. I think really just, being very customer centric, and how do we approach the business? We're very big on everything from pricing of like, hey, the price is the price is the price. We don't throw fees and surcharges and all these other things on top of there. We work with the customers, so as their businesses ebb and flow, right? With this current economy, it's been challenging, different depending what business you're in. We work with the customers, so we adapt and change frequency as needed for if they're routed customers or on demand. And then just really trying to put yourself in the customer's shoes and ask a lot of questions, not because you're being nosy but as you're getting into the business, and the more you work with them, the more you understand their business. And we start to uncover a lot of insights in their business. So those questions can actually help them determine better results longer term. So we've had customers where we've made recommendations on how they're hauling, who they're hauling, or who they're hauling with. And just by asking lots of questions, and we've been able to help people adapt their businesses on the trash, because trash is really the last thing that people think about. Mm-hmm. It's a line item on the P&L. It's an expense, but it's the last thing to think about because it's trash. There's a lot of other things they got to do. So we bring light to that, and through our focus, our energy, our passion, we help them kind of take a few minutes and focus and say, oh yeah, let's look at that. And I think that's that customer-centric approach.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like a lot of businesses are going to start or the world's going to start leaning towards more customer service, because like a lot of companies are doing like this, not the same amount of work, but pretty much the same amount of work. But this, the service is really going to be what like sets people apart. I feel like that's something Dan and Michael really stress here to us, making sure you just treat everyone the same and try to find like ways to help them instead of how they're helping you.
Absolutely.
Put others first.
Absolutely.
So that's one of our key
core values.
Core values.
Yep. Putting
Another
others
thing,
first.
going back to like the team, how does your team look like? Like how many people usually work in like a day?
So we have four folks that are up and running, full and part time. I'm one of them. I'm an owner operator, so I'm out selling. I'm networking. I'm driving. Whatever you got to do. So typical day there's three of us out in the field. Some days we have four, depending on projects or other things going on. Mm-hmm. But once again, thinking different and pivoting. I took a day off on Friday. We had a long weekend with the family, and we went to the mountains for a few days. And one of my guys said, I'd like to try something different. And so he went out and actually knocked on a couple doors. Nice. And nice. And it's not. And I told him, we coached him up, and I gave him some things to do. And I said, it's not about hitting home runs. You don't have to go in there and get the sale and get the demo. Just go knock on a door and just introduce yourself. And if you can get a card and just, and if that's it, that's great. And he came back, and I'll tell you what, I was so impressed and so proud of him, because he came back and he had some really great leads and really great contacts. And, it's all about him just saying, I like this, I'm having a fun time. How else can I help? Mm-hmm. And we said, well, would you be willing to try this? And he's like, yeah, I'll try that. So we're going to take and run with that here in the next couple of days, and we're going to try kind of phase 2 and see if we can coach him up a little bit more. And it helps me as a business owner, where I'm wearing so many hats, where if he can help with just a couple things, but it also then helps the business, right? So he sees it as it's good for me, it's good for the business, but it also creates fun and into his world and his day-to-day.
And new experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, right? And it's kind of no pressure, right? It was like, hey, you know what, give it a try. If you don't like it, I'm okay with that. But it was kind of initiated by him. And it all came about just because he was already kind of doing it. He knows a guy, right? I know a guy, or I'm familiar with this guy. And I'm like, you're actually really good at this. And just by him being him and me being open to have a dialogue and discussion, it just kind of evolved into, him going out and trying a little bit of the sales world.
That's awesome.
I think that's also important. I feel like a lot of businesses might lack like seeing, seeing like a strong suit that someone has or something they're really good at or could be good at, like just pushing them in that direction. That's something our bosses do here a lot as well. If they see you even have like a little bit of interest in an area, they're gonna push you in that area and just show you the ways pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I came from just truck driving. Like I talked a little bit to my customers here and there, but like Mike and Dan have me going out and talking to pretty much every customer when I go get a box and making sure everything's all right and checking in with everybody. It's nice to just see the growth. I see like you and Dan are like right there with each other, growth in the people you have.
And it's great because it brings excitement into your day, right? Because you probably now really enjoy seeing those customers because you're starting to develop relationships with them, right? Whether it's, hey, how was that vacation, or hey, I see that project is really getting along, right, in the works. You start developing that relationship, so it's not even really work. It's like, hey, get to see him or her. Right?
Yeah.
It's and you get to develop more of that conversation.
Yeah, because like that pulls up to like one of our customers. I went there one of the first times doing one of our roll-off boxes, and I completely couldn't do it. And then I went back up 3 weeks later, and they came out and they were talking to me like, "Oh wow, this is a lot better than last time." I'm like, so you remember my face and you remember the driver's face, and you come out and have a conversation, and you start remembering the customer's face and names, and it gets to be super nice.
Well, and I think to that point, I didn't mean to cut you off.
you're
I
good,
think to that point, I think the customers root for you too,
Mm-hmm.
right? If they really like you and they really get what you're doing, they start to become your fans and your advocates.
Yep.
And to your point exactly, my driver, she's never driven a truck before. She had a U-Haul that she drove here many years ago, but she's driving this big truck. It's 32 feet long. It's 9 feet wide. It's 12 feet 6 inches tall. It's pretty big. And she went up, the first time you back it up, it's about 10 or 12 pulls until you back up to that dumpster correctly. So she and a customer came out the other week on a Friday and said, I got to tell you, in the last 30 days, you have improved immensely. That made her week.
Oh,
the
yeah,
fact
it
that
does.
they acknowledged and saw the fact that she was a little timid in the beginning, but now, man, she was one backup, and she's, it was a done deal. So I think that's cool to see that the customer takes time to acknowledge and say that kind of thing. Shows that they're invested in us as a partner, and that's I think important. Is it's not a customer vendor relationship. I think it becomes a partnership, and that's really what we strive for as well. And I think that's what you guys strive for in what you do.
I also notice it's also like the little things that you do can really like make someone's day like that. Like I had a customer who I haven't seen since probably the beginning of December. He came in last week, and I was just telling him about the plans I had for New Year's. We were just talking about it, and he came in last week, and he asked me about my plans that I did on New Year's, and like the fact that he remembered that after like 2 months is just, it's cool to me.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Do you have do you have a family at home?
I do. I have 2 daughters and a wife, and a beagle. And it's funny, when you get into this business, everywhere you go, you start to look for open-top dumpsters.
Yeah.
So my children at 14 and 12, little 12-year-old girls, they are constantly, Dad, did you see this? Dad, did you see this one? They were at Hershey Park this summer, and they were riding on a roller coaster. Like, Dad, there's like 4 dumpsters over here. So it's cool because even though they're not in the business day to day, they are big advocates, big supporters, and active participants in helping us to be as successful as possible.
Yeah, it's nice they show pride in your work.
Yeah.
How important, I actually like that point, how important do you think it is to kind of like, because I feel like sometimes a lot of business owners, especially to their kids, when they get home, they kind of don't want to talk about it, or like don't necessarily, like a lot of kids might not even know what their parents do as business owners. How important is it to just like kind of show them, like at like especially such a young age, just like the different stuff that's out there? Because
Well, it's critical. So I was doing this when I bought into this. I bought it as a semi-absentee owner. So I had a sales guy, and he was doing the selling. So I really only got into this full time here September. Now, to say full time, I was working ridiculous hours while I had a full-time job and trying to do this at the same time. But we as a family had an active conversation and said, hey, I want to make a transition. And my daughter said, does that mean you're going to go to more of our school events, more of our sports and things like that? So that was an agreement that we made up front, right? Because they're in the business too. And I said, absolutely it is. But they also know that there's a lot that I have to do. But we have conversations, and we were on a trip, like I said, a long weekend up to the mountains this past weekend. And we talked about stuff. So there was some good stuff that happened, some stuff that were some opportunities. I always look at things as negatives. I always think there's an opportunity just around the corner. So try to use as sessions, for employees you'd say coaching sessions. I guess, I don't know if you say that for your children, but we try to coach them up a little bit. But I think that as children, they have such a unique opportunity to learn from, me as an entrepreneur. We did a parade for Elizabethtown this year for the holiday parade, and we got some cool LED lights, and we rigged them up, and we did the parade, and my one daughter rode in the front seat with me. And she thought it was so cool, and she said to me, "Dad, you hear how many people say, 'What's that?' when they saw the truck? And what do they do?" And, and she thought that was the neatest thing in the world. But to hear her verbalize what she was hearing from them, and then hear her takeaways afterwards, and why that was such a good idea to do that parade. So those kids, they're sharp. I mean, they really they get it, and they're invested in the process and the business too, and they want us to be successful. And they want to do stuff. Can I help you with videos? Can I help you with photos? Can I help you with whatever?
Yeah, I feel like younger kids definitely have more to offer than maybe like adults give them credit for, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Like I was never around. My dad's a barber, so I was always over at the barber shop and stuff. But I was never on like this scale of like just like having stuff to learn, if that makes sense. But like I even just think like when I have kids one day, or like when we all have kids, like bringing them here when they're like 10 to like 12, like there's a lot of good lessons that they can learn from stuff like this.
My older daughter wanted to help me with something, and so I had her doing a research project, and she wrote it out on a piece of paper, and I said, no, I want it in an Excel spreadsheet, right? And she's like, she doesn't know how to do that, and so I taught her how to do that. So she learned Excel as a result of wanting to help me. So the cool thing was, she learned Excel not because she wanted to learn Excel. She learned Excel because she was helping her dad with something that she wanted to help me with. Yep. In order to do that, she had to learn Excel. So I think there's all these cool ancillary benefits as a result of them wanting to be part of the day-to-day.
And that might even push them to follow in your footsteps and maybe create something as well.
I hope that would be cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Well, we're all pretty young here, 20, 21. Mason's 27.
You're the old guy.
I am the old guy.
What advice would you give yourself when you were our age, if you could give anything?
If I could do it all over again, I think the one thing I would say is go for it earlier. This is something that I kind of stumbled onto later in life. I did a graduate degree program, and my classmates were a little bit older than I was at the time, and they said, look at small businesses, look at doing your own thing. And I was in my mid to late 30s at that point, and that's really kind of when the light bulb went off for me. If I could do it all over again, I would say take the risk while you're really, really young, and and I think, and I say that, but leverage your network to make the risk less risky. So if you know somebody who is in an industry you want to go into, or an adjacency, or somebody who knows somebody, have a conversation, grab a cup of coffee. I think that's probably my biggest regret that I would say, and it's not even a regret. I would just go back in time about 20 years and do it all over again before you had the kids in the house and all those other niceties that you got to pay for.
But but with that, there is a bigger lesson that it's never too late to like start something.
Absolutely.
You can always, even your 40s, 30s, it doesn't matter. You can always make something.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
It's awesome. Gives hope to everyone.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
Never too late.
Well, we thank you for coming in, man.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Nice to see you guys. Yep.
Yeah. Do you have any questions to wrap it up for us, or anything you want to touch on?
I think what you guys are doing is great, and I think you kind of touched on it earlier. I think there's a lot of parallels to what we're doing and how you guys are kind of going to market, and I think it's a customer-centric approach. I think it's just thinking different about stuff and pivoting and being willing to have a conversation with a guy who smashes garbage, and because I don't know, and I think I appreciate the willingness to have those chats and those conversations, because I learn a lot every time I talk to you guys, and I love the passion. I see these videos of you guys putting out there. You're talking about prices of different materials and where the market's going and what you guys are doing and how you're adapting and changing. That's inspirational to a guy like me, right? Because because it's me, myself, and I on a little island, and I got a franchise network, and I talk to those guys, but they're in Baltimore or California or other places.
Yeah.
But to have somebody just down the road, that kind of works in a similar world, is pretty cool. So I thank you guys for the hospitality and the invitation to come down and join you.
Of course, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah. And thank you guys for watching another episode of the Dumpster Talk. We'll see you guys next week.